We're a little bit in the dark today, but that's okay. So the readathon is over. I set out to read 13 books and I got 8. Ignore that I'm holding up 3 fingers. Considering that I wasn't even planning for real to get to 1 book, that's 8 out of 12. That's 75%. And I got all the prompt books, so I won the readathon. Even though it's not something you can win, I won the readathon. I'm gonna avoid spoilers. There's 1 book that I will say 1 spoiler for on purpose, and I will warn you before I say it. It'll be easily skippable, but no spoilers besides that one. Alright, so I'm gonna start with the ones I love the most to the ones I love the least. I didn't hate anyone. Although, let's be real, 1 book almost got a 2-star, but I gave it a 3 in the end. So first up, my favorite book, and actually my favorite book of the entire year, and the first 5-star I gave this year, The Jasmine Throne. This book fulfilled the high rating or highly recommended prompt, and it was well deserved. Seriously. Also, my guesses about the story based on the synopsis were not that accurate, but we'll ignore that. This story takes place on a continent, like a country, it's an empire called Parijat Vipa, which is, on the nose. It's definitely on the nose. Let me move over to make space. This is what the country looks like. Parijat Vipa means, Night Jasmine Island / continent, so yeah, it has a theme. Anyway, this empire is headed up by a emperor who has got a thing for burning women to death. Yep, if anything is gonna turn you off of this book, it's gonna be the burning. But we start off in the prologue with the emperor's sister refusing to walk willingly into the fire. And because this is a religious thing where he sees it as an honor, like you're an impure woman and this is an honor, like if you willingly walk into the flames and burn to death and you will be elevated to immortal status. It's a religious thing. So he's not gonna force her into it. It's not a punishment. Although, let's be real, in her case, it's a punishment. Are you leaving me? Are you going? Go on. So because she doesn't want to willingly walk into the fire, she gets imprisoned in this temple, in this tiny corner of the continent, in like this city that's being ravaged by this disease. Is it a disease? Can we call it a disease? It's like this affliction called the rot, where like flowers and plants like grow in your skin and they like pop out like in your eyeballs. Like there's a kid walking around with a flower coming out her eyeball, you know? Kind of like the plant Borg in the Aurora Rising trilogy, a little bit. Except there's no Borg collective, it just kills you. So living in this town is our other main character, who's a maidservant, and guess who gets chosen to help clean up the temple during the night, secretly during the night and all that stuff? Our girl and her other girls. So this is how they meet. And the story takes off from there. And they're each trying to do their own little revenge crap. It's a revenge story that's also a sapphic love story. So what I liked about the story was the writing. Amazing. The characters. Amazing. It's like a masterclass in world building. I have not seen world building better than in this story. Now we're talking multiple governments in multiple regions, some of which don't exist anymore, okay? Multiple religions from multiple areas, one of which does not exist anymore. We've got 6 POV characters in their, like, space in society, and none of this is spoon-fed to you. None of this is info-dumped, really. And it's not confusing at all. It's, like, perfect. It's perfect. And the romance, also perfect. I really do appreciate when books, like, acknowledge reality, like real things. Like the one character, she is not beautiful, and her love interest acknowledges that and is like, okay, that's just, you know, whatever. The other love interest, she was beautiful, but now she's all like drugged up, starving, dirty, her hair's like, there's a scene in the book where they have to like get the mats out of her hair, and it's like so messed up. So she's not looking her best. And the other character is like, okay, I see all this. That's okay. I still like her. Like, it's realistic. And it's not rushed at all. It's not insta-love. They both start out trying to use each other and they kind of like grow fond of each other. This romance was like almost tailor-made for me. Okay, my little ace heart. 10 out of 10. Am recommending. Next up, we got The Red Palace by June Her. Are we surprised? Are we surprised that this book was amazing? No. It's Junher, of course. It's a good book. She did it again. Murder mystery extraordinaire, done again. Amazing. I actually guessed who the killer was, okay? And she convinced me that it wasn't that person. That never, ever happened before. People have gotten me to doubt my choice, but no one has ever gotten me to dismiss my choice. And then they're actually the killer. I loved this book. This one's actually simple. We have the palace nurse Yun, who gets called into the crown prince's area of the palace to assist the physician with treating him. And when she gets there, a person laying in the bed, not the crown prince, even though his wife and the physician are both pretending it's the crown prince. Turns out she has been brought there to be an alibi for the prince because he has snuck out of the palace. He's not allowed to do that. Honestly, this wouldn't have been a problem if 4 women didn't get murdered while the prince was missing and he didn't come home bloody. Adding on to this situation, Yun knows the 4 women who are killed because they are at the school that she trained to be palace nurse in, and her teacher has been accused of murdering them. But Yun knows her teacher would never do that. So this book is about her teaming up with this inspector she meets in the crime scene she snuck into. What's his name? Ojin. Inspector Ojin. And actually, the crown prince in this book is a real crown prince who had some sketchy stuff in his, activities, let's just say. And I'm pretty sure Junher mentioned that he did actually kill people. But did he kill these 4 women? Next up, Blackwater Sister. This one, I really have to dig deep into the memory banks because this is the first book I read. Also fulfills the first prompt of just read an Asian book. So this one's about a recent college grad. Not doing too great. She's still living at home. Doesn't really have a job. So when her parents are like, okay, our America plan is not going so great. Let's move back to Malaysia. She goes with them because what else is she gonna do? I don't know what you know about Malaysia. It's a very diverse nation, but it's also very old school, let's say. There's some very old school things about Malaysia. And what I'm trying to say is the main character is a secret lesbian who has a secret lesbian girlfriend. And her ultimate plan is to leave Malaysia and move to Singapore to be with her secret lesbian girlfriend while keeping all of this a secret from her family. But for the time being, her and her family are staying with other family in Malaysia and trying to rebuild a life back home in a place they haven't been to in 20 years. Well, they've visited, but you know what I mean. However, she starts hearing voices, starts having some weird occurrences. Turns out her grandmother is possessing her. So this one, if you're in it purely for the ghost action, you're gonna have a boring time in the first half, because the first half is all about the family dynamics, the struggles. She was born in Malaysia, but she doesn't feel like she belongs in Malaysia. And then she still got her baggage from not being considered American while she was in America, and just all these weird family dynamics. There's a whole side of the family don't even talk about. And it's super interesting, but maybe they'll turn some people off. But if you don't like all that, the second half really pays off, although there is a very graphic assault scene, just to be warned, But the ghost part is good. It actually is a really good book. Not entirely what I expected. I was one of those people who went in for the ghost action and was sitting there not much ghosty goo stuff has happened, But it still kept my interest. So, I recommend that guy. So next book I read was Only a Monster. Admittedly, this book was very close to the bottom of this list until the ending. Okay, I'll talk about the ending in a minute. Let me give a brief overview first. Imagine Harry Potter, okay? But they don't call the witches and wizards, they call them monsters. And all of the big families have special abilities. That's what this book is. They even have a monster Diagon Alley. Literally, they walk into a pub, and in the back of the pub is the door to the marketplace. The special monster marketplace. in London. Our main character, teenager, she's half... Oh crap. I can't remember if she's Chinese or Malaysian. I don't have the book anymore, so I can't check. Okay, she's either half Chinese or Malaysian and half British, okay? And she's currently staying with her British side of the family in Britain. But the British side of the family is like the monster side of the family. They have the special abilities, but they're also like outcasts, like they're big thieves. Their special ability allows them to be thieves because they can like, let's say they got this ring, like they take this ring, they can like whoosh, make it disappear. And then anywhere else in the world, you can like, whoosh, you know, make it reappear. That wasn't actually magic, I know. It's super easy for them to steal things. So they steal things. And because they are big, big thieves, and they have been thieves for centuries, no one likes them. So our girl, who is enjoying her time, you know, living with her family, she's having her normal woes about being half monster, blah, blah, blah. She gets a boyfriend. Super cool. He's amazing. And then he murders her entire family. I'm not joking. Listen, I'm looking at the synopsis here, okay? I'm looking at it right now. Here's the deal. This synopsis leads you to believe that he's after her family, okay? That he wants to kill them. And she's trying to prevent that from happening. They do not hint at all that they start off getting massacred. It's very misleading. That's not even a spoiler. It happens so quickly. And she has to run off into the monster wilderness to, you know, survive while running from her boyfriend who now wants her dead. And the story just goes off from there. Now, here's the big spoiler, alright? Take a note of the time. Skip ahead like 20 seconds, okay? That's your warning. The reason I gave this book such a high rating is because I made a joke to myself in the beginning. Haha, wouldn't it suck if she had to kill him? And at the end of the book, she has to freaking murder this guy. And it blew my mind. And that is why I gave this book 4 stars. That's the only reason I gave it 4 stars. Because the sheer cojones it took to do that. I was not expecting that at all. It's a YA book too. And it spent so much time focusing on that one character only to have the thing happen just in case someone is not skipped far enough ahead. I'm not... You know, I'm being vague. So anyway, up until like the last 3/4 of the book, this book was a solid 2. Solid 2 stars. And the reason is because the main character, she is so stubborn. She is so bullheaded. She is so reckless. And I was so annoyed that she kept on getting rewarded for doing this, even though it was the dumbest decisions ever. And she just would not accept reality. But she kept on getting rewarded for that. So I was getting really irritated with the book, actually. It was really irritating. And then around like the 3/4 mark, she has like a real plan now and they're actually doing something. So I was like, okay, you know what? I could accept this. We could, this is a standard YA fair thing, you know? It could get 3 stars. And then the thing happened that I talked about before and I was like, oh my god. So, they had a 4 star for that one. Thank you, Vanessa Lynn. Speaking of stars, next up on the list was A Light from Uncommon Stars. This one fulfilled the prompt of having an older character or a woman character by having an older woman character. She's like, her age is not mentioned until like way in the end of the book, but she's like 70 something, I think. She's 78, I just checked. This one, also kind of easy to explain. There's this violin prodigy who traded her soul, kind of, for, you know, the normal devil deal stuff. And she kind of backed out of that, but she wasn't quite locked into the contract. So now, in order to, like, get out of the contract completely, she has to give the, I guess he's a demon, she has to give the demon guy 7 more souls so she can live free, you know? And so far, she has sent 6 people to hell. Lovely person. And she has found her 7th soul, someone that like really is resonating with her on like a technical level with violin. And she's building up into be like this amazing violinist. Like this is her final masterpiece, you know, that's what she's doing. And this person is trans woman Katrina Nguyen, who is a runaway, and I believe it's in Los Angeles. Yeah, she ran away to Los Angeles and very randomly gets discovered by this violin lady by playing. Actually, no, she wasn't playing. She was just chilling in the park with her violin, and she spotted her. So, this book, okay, I actually put this in my review. It's kind of like a Monty Python movie that's not funny. It's very serious. It's like a Monty Python version of abuse, assaults, death, murder, war, and all that stuff. And honestly, there are parts it was really hard to take seriously. For example, okay, let me see. In the synopsis, they have they mention that she meets a starship captain in a donut shop, right? And when I read that, I thought, oh, this takes place in the future. This is like, a sci-fi kind of world. Wrong. It takes place today, and the starship captain is just some random ass alien in Los Angeles for like no reason. They're just there. So yeah, it's a lot of that. It's just like, okay, this is happening. Okay, now this is happening now too. All right, we're rolling. Okay. Like, that's the whole book. And this is not a spoiler. I'm not going to say exactly what happens, all right? But the ending is very much a Japanese ending. The author is Japanese, but she's like from Hawaii. But even so, it's still a very Japanese ending, I have to say. But you know how most books there's like an evil and you vanquish the evil? Japanese books, in general, this is like a generalized statement, obviously, they don't necessarily vanquish the evil. They kind of avoid the evil. They avert the evil. They get around it. They don't actually like destroy the evil. There's like an idea that like there are things that are just dangerous in the world and you just gotta avoid it, like you can't help it. And that is kind of how this book goes. That's as specific as I can get without being a spoiler. I read in some reviews that people are really turned off by the ending. I can see why. It's a little hokey. There's a little bit of a hokey element to it. But otherwise, it's a good book. It's not gonna wow your socks off, but it's good. But you do have to be warned that there's a lot of heavy stuff in here. A lot of transphobia. There's things I can't say on YouTube that happen in this book. Like, find a trigger list for this book. I put some stuff in my review on Goodreads. The next one is The Verifiers by Jane Peck. This one is very, very the middle. This is the cutoff line for having like positive things to say. It's just it's a book. It is a book of books. It is a book. Well, first of all, the synopsis, misleading. Okay. They say that a woman goes missing, and like that's technically true for like a paragraph before they find out she's dead. So I don't really know why they said missing, because no one cared that she was missing. They were just like, oh, she stiffed us on her bill. Whatever, let's move on with life. And no one cared. So why was that the description? Who knows? But anyway, the main character has a job at like an agency that investigates people from dating apps. Like, is this person really who they think they are? Or is this person a real person? Blah, blah, blah. They do that for a living. One of their clients goes missing for like 3 seconds. And they find out she is murdered. And her two bosses are like, leave it alone, none of our business. And our main character, of course, is like, I'm not leaving this alone. Yeah, like everyone in the book needed therapy. Like, there was something wrong with every single character. Like, every single one is just something. You need therapy, and you need therapy. That's the book. Now we're moving on. So I think the last two are kind of tied, so I'm just doing A Magic Steeped in Poison first. This is the one that fulfilled the prompt of pretty cover, and it does have a pretty cover. It was more like A Magic Steeped in Confusion, because I spent half the book asking myself, why is she doing this? Why is that happening? Excuse me, why are they doing this? What is happening? I spent the entire book doing that. And full disclosure, before I made this, I watched 6 reviews for this to see if like maybe I was just being an idiot. And maybe I was just being an idiot, because only one of those 6 people was just as confused as I was. But there was still one other person who was just as confused as I was, so maybe something's not right here. Either way, it was a roller coaster of disbelief. It really was. Like, in my TBR video, I mentioned that I couldn't understand why... Okay, so the main character, like, she brews tea and she's going off to compete in a tea competition because she killed her mother accidentally and now her sister is dying from the same poison. So if she wins this competition, she can ask for a favor from the princess, and she's hoping that will save her sister's life. That is the premise of the book. And when I read that, I was like, how is she supposed to win this competition if she messed up so badly that she killed her mother and is killing her sister? Like, she's supposed to win a competition. But then we find out that the tea has been poisoned on purpose. Like, just bricks of tea have been tainted. So then I'm like, oh, okay, this is okay again. But then disbelief kicks in again when we find out that she's not actually an apprentice. Like, she's not actually been taught these things. She just kind of like osmosis learned it because her sister was the one who was the tea apprentice. Okay. So once again, I'm like, she's not a tea apprentice and she's going into the tea apprentice contest to win. How is she going to do this? Excuse me? And then disbelief goes away a little bit again. Like, okay, we found out that she's just magically gifted and it just comes naturally to her. I'm like, all right. This is the YA thing. We're just gonna, be magical about it. But then she messes up so bad, and this is like in the beginning of the book, so I'm not counting this as a spoiler. But she messes up so bad that she has government officials wanting her to be thrown in jail for being so insulting. And I'm like, how the hell is she going to win this competition? All the other tea apprentices, they're like, they have proper training. Some of them are really famous, some of them are cheating and, rubbing elbows with the judges. How? And then we find out that she cheats too, so that's okay. It's just up and down. And everything I talked about happens like the first 20% of the book. Like, just that much. And it was already up and down crazy. Just imagine what the rest of the book is like, okay? But anyway, I'm just probably not the audience. I think I'm just not the audience for this one because, once again, 5 out of the other 6 reviewers loved this book, except for that one person just as confused as me. So, give it a try if you want it. I mean, it's not terrible. It's a YA book with, like, it feels like a standard generic YA book that we've all read before, just with China stamped on top of it. That's what it feels like. Anyway, my last book is Wicked As You Wish. Wicked As You Wish almost got 2 stars. But at the end of the day, the world was cool. It did have a cool world. They stuck in all these fairy tales into, like, reality and kind of, like, put our politics, like, world politics into the mix and kind of meshed it into this new, like, hybrid world of reality and magic, and it's just, like, that's how it is. So that was pretty cool, actually. And honestly, the premise... also good. A prince hiding out in Arizona where it's like a magical dead zone because he's a magical refugee of, like, this kingdom that got frozen over by magic. Makes sense, okay. He's seizing the opportunity to take back his kingdom. Cool. But it's like, first of all, it got bogged down by dialogue. And I say that as someone who is very heavy on dialogue. There were several times where there was just 3 solid pages of dialogue, and I only needed to read, like, 1 sentence of it. Like, only 1 sentence of all those 3 pages was relevant to the story. It was just, like, friends chatting at the lunch table. Things like that. And then the prince just got really pissy all of a sudden. I was like, I suddenly don't like you anymore. I don't know. It's really hard to describe because, like, just saying it like this, it makes sense. Like, yeah, if someone's going through something, they will lash out like that. But there was just something about how it was written that was just turning me off. Like, you were actually... No, it's not that you're just going through a thing. You're just a terrible person, and I don't like you anymore. It was very weird. And then I think we could have cut down on the cast a little bit, you know, and like every 5 seconds they had like some kind of 2-page backstory conversation, and then like, we don't need to know this. This is very interesting, but we don't need to know this. It was like the author wrote all this lore and then wanted it all in there. And you can't have it all in there. And I feel like that's what happened. She was like, I need all of this in here. I don't think it was a good decision. Like, I don't need to know about this sword and how, like, Cinderella, you know, whoever used this sword to kill whoever. It's like, okay, who cares? You are using the sword. I already know what it does. I don't need to know its backstory, especially if it's going to be half a chapter. However, the world itself earned its stars. The concept earned its stars. And the fact that they turned me on to peanut butter cheeseburgers should have lost it a star. But I gave it a star. So 3 stars for world, premise, peanut butter cheeseburgers. Here's the deal. I don't really eat burgers or cheeseburgers or anything like that. But we had some in the freezer that have been there for like maybe a year and a half. They're all freezer burnt. And I was like, you know what? These are bad burgers anyway. Let me just try this. Like, the one character mentioned that and all the other characters like, oh my god, this is delicious. Let me just, you know, fry up the bad burger. And it was really good. Just peanut butter on a cheeseburger. What the hell? So yeah, anyway, 3 stars, that one. I think if you are someone who has not read very many YA books, like if you haven't filled your well yet, you'll probably like it. I won't be reading the second book. It actually ended in a non-cliffhangery way, so I'm not like, it's not like I'm missing a story. Like, it could actually end there and there wouldn't be a sequel and it'd be fine. So that's always good. I would give it a star, but I don't want to give it a star for that. I'll just give it praise. Coming back to the middle. In any case, that's all the books I read. I know I said that I didn't hate any of the books, and that's actually true, even though I was a little harsh on the last book, I know. But I still thought the world carried it. All in all, I have a new snack as if I needed a reason to add 200 calories to a cheeseburger. Anyway, hope you did good on your reading, and I'll see you next week. Bye.